about where we can allocate. Oh, thank you. I apologize. There's our recording. Where we can allocate some of the programming and amenity opportunities within the parks, recreation, and open space opportunities of the city of Belmont. So some of the things that we have done are going to help give better understanding of the options that we're considering to propose at the Hidden Canyon site. So I'll go through some of those efforts to date. We'll talk a little bit about some of the very high level concepts that we're considering for programming opportunities out at Hidden Canyon Park, and then we'll go through some questions and have discussions about it. Next slide. Thank you. So our first step when we were tackling this Parks and Recreation Open Space Master Plan was to set some guiding principles. We wanted to make sure that we were including the goals of the city as well as those of the community, and a lot of it was input with our advisory committee. So we put together some tenets that include safety, maintenance, accessibility, inclusion, environmental stewardship, and many more things that I know you're all able to read, but really setting a bar to continue to promote Belmont's extensive parks, recreation, and open space opportunities and allowing them to be successful into the future while we transition this master plan. Next slide, please. So right now we are in the phase, we're looking at some of those recommendations and considering what the implementation would look like. So we are meeting with you guys to get feedback on some of the ideas specific to Hidden Canyon Park to make sure that some of the programming opportunities that could be slated for this undeveloped site are in line with what you guys would want around your park facilities. And so far, on the next slide, we have offered up all the information to date related to this project on this wonderful website called the BelmontProsPlan.com. So if ever you want to see any of our previous videos, some of the summaries of studies we've done so far, any of our draft chapters, anything is available on the Belmont Pros Plan. If for any reason you're not able to find something that you'd like more information on, you're also welcome to contact us through info@belmontprosplan.com. It goes to several of us, so we'll make sure that you are sorted appropriately and given whatever it is you're seeking. This is also a platform if anyone was not able to attend or participate this evening. We're soliciting similar input through a virtual venue through the website. And if any of you have technical questions, feel free to reach out to us through that info@BelmontProsPlan as well. So far, we took a look at what's going on in Belmont. What is the condition of the parks, recreation, and open space? What does the community want to see? And part of that was an online survey. It's also these conversations, you guys, our focus groups. We benchmarked as to what's typical for a city of this size, of this kind of use patterns. And then we established some different park typologies. So what are we trying to be? Where would we like those uses to be? And how will we distribute it throughout the city? Ideally, we're looking to set a model that allows our entire city to be one connected park open space network. So we're not necessarily looking at tidbit parts and making sure it serves just one specific neighborhood, but instead looking at the cohesion of all of that put together. So the experience throughout Belmont is equitable and wonderful. In our community survey, these are just some highlights of what we got. There are several reasons people like to visit the parks and open space. This is one of our top 5. There are also some suggestions for what would continue to improve the amenities and make them a better experience. So people go out for individual exercise. They'd like to see more trees, walking paths, maybe some options for restrooms. We also had some focus groups leading up to this point where we talked with different specific interest groups and how they may want to see those facilities used, improved, or other opportunities included. So some of the highlights are listed here, consistent with a lot of what we saw in our community outreach efforts, which was an intensity of shade, maybe some options for restrooms, more seating, and just a diversity of use. A lot of comments about flexibility and adaptability, because as we all know, a lot of our habits changed with introduction of COVID into our lives. So we wanted to make sure that our parks were reacting to that same flux and how we're using our common spaces. So when we were studying a lot of the feedback that we received from the community and our focus groups, our intent was to try to take those desired amenities and find places that they could be programmed or used in some of our existing or future park opportunity spaces. So some of those that were selected to go into the Hidden Canyon site will be demonstrated when we get to our opportunities for development there. These were some of the things that we felt were suitable for the site, for the local community and neighborhood as well. So when we were studying where these opportunities could go, we had a lot of options. So we have several existing master plans that lay out some not opportunity sites, that lay out some future programming ideas. We have some sites that are looking at minor improvements, some that are taking a new amenity, additional programming to what's there currently, some that are changing existing uses to be better or maybe slightly different. And then we have some, which is Hidden Canyon, which is currently an undeveloped park site. So when we studied that, we came up with these diagrams. So this is what is there now. This is our existing conditions. We have access to the open space trails. We have parking opportunities, a portable restroom, some paved areas, but mostly unprogrammed. So some of the top amenities that were wanted by the community that we thought would be a good fit for this site included trees and shade, some seating, a natural environment, so a chance to integrate with nature, informal gathering, and potentially a dog park. We noticed that there are already existing multi-use paths and there's already flexible use space. We did not think this was a suitable spot to put some of the top desired amenities, which included the All Abilities Play, the pump track, or pickleball. So we came up with two ideas. Now, again, I want to reiterate that right now we're working at the master plan level. So the concepts you're seeing are by no means trying to design this park in this moment. And when this park is being designed, there will be subsequent meetings that are much more detailed and specific. What we're looking for tonight is what programming is suitable for this space that we as a team can set forward in our Parks and Recreation master plan so that when this park is developed, we're likely to see these improvements. The way that we've divided into two concepts is not necessarily this or that. There is an option for an a la carte, but we like to show some potential ways that these things could lay out just to help ease this conversation about what we think is suitable for this site. So in our option A, we're presenting an emphasis on a nature-oriented design. So the programming that we would propose would include outdoor classroom opportunities, potentially a community garden, some permanent restroom opportunities, casual gathering space, and a picnic area. We've used the orange, green, and white bubbles to designate some of those improvements and where they could occur. This graphic feeds into a larger master plan chapter, which again, you guys are going to hear me say this 1,000 times, is available on the belmontprosplan.com website. But just for a quick context, our white circle with the orange text is indicating an existing feature. Our orange circle with the white text is a feature that would take this to the next park classification. So we're seeking a tier 2 park here in this undeveloped. And what that means is that it engages some natural opportunity or some engagement with nature opportunities, some gathering areas, and then some additional amenities. And what we're proposing in the green with the number are where some of those programming items could occur. I'm mostly explaining those so you're not like, what are these numbers? But they're not entirely relevant if this design is not specifically aligning with what you're looking for. Again, these are opportunities that could occur at this site. I'm going to keep this slide available so we can have discussion, but I'll talk through our concept number 2 really briefly. So option B has an emphasis instead of outdoor education on dog parklet. So we'd be proposing that there's an informal natural dog area accompanied by some outdoor play experience that may serve as an entrance to the open space, still an informal gathering seating area, parking improvements, permanent restroom, and a picnic area. So there's overlap in both of these concepts, which is why it's a nice opportunity to pick and choose what we think is suitable. we would love if you guys are willing to chat about what you would love to see at this park, or any questions or concerns you might have about some of the programming that we're considering at this time. At that, I would actually love to open that up now, because after we go to that, we're talking about next steps. And I think that that's when we want to be wrapping up and consolidating. So you guys have several options to communicate with us in chat right now. We have a chat that is being moderated by our wonderful Dana. So she will try to answer questions if she's able, or bring them up to the group for discussion. You're also able to use the, I believe we have the raise the hand feature. No, you can physically raise your hand.
Well, that too, if your camera's on, or if you want to go to reaction and do raise hand, I can unmute you and I'll call your name. So we do this in kind of organized order rather than speaking over each other. But again, chat's available, and raise your hand if you'd like to talk. Okay, Patricia, I see your hand first. So I'm going to unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Wait, you're already unmuted. You're good. Yes,
Yep,
please.
we can hear you.
So I feel like from that introduction that you guys have already been exploring a lot. I feel like you're trying to find, like, we have the city resource, the park, and that you really want to find a use for it. I just like to point out, as someone who's like on the street and has been there for 20 years, this is already a really high use area, and it's already, while it may not be quote unquote developed in the ways you're describing, it gets a lot of foot traffic. It gets a lot of bike traffic. And having been here since 1997, the amount of bikes increasing is just exponential multiplying, which is why it has been a hot button topic for the last year. We've been, meeting on these kinds of things. So before we try to like find other uses for it with names, parklets, dog parks, I really would like to encourage you to think about this, the high use traffic it already is getting. Because as someone who lived on the street, we pointed out before, it's a dead end street, and the amount of traffic is huge. I've been down there counting cars, and the cars come all the way back up, way down the street. And again, I just feel like people who don't live here are trying really hard to find a use for it. It's already highly used for walking and biking, and those are already issues that we're trying to reconcile. But I feel like we're trying to add more to it.
Thank you, Patricia. I think that's a great comment. So I have noted that it's already really well used. There's concern about some of the intensification of traffic. And I by no means want to disagree. I just want to try to clarify one thing. We're not trying to further program the space. Instead, we saw the space as an opportunity to add some of the amenities and programming that the community would like to see in their parks, recreation, and open space system. So I'm not trying to minimize your comment. So instead of thinking it as us trying to program it and bring more people there, we're actually trying to provide the amenities that the community told us they would like to see. And this is where we do have some space and opportunity to do that. So we don't want to lose that opportunity. Thank you.
And next on the list, I saw Christine. So I'm going to unmute you. Or attempt to. There you go. Perfect.
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Shreve. I'm at 2620 Cromont Drive, and I'm an original owner like Patricia. And I'd like to just echo what Patricia had communicated with you, that this is already a pretty well-used area. I will tell you that when we purchased our home 20 how many years ago, that the builders did tell us that there was going to be a park at the end of the street, and that I was really thrilled because I had a 3- and a 5-year-old at the time. And then when nothing actually materialized except for a bench and parking spaces, I was a little disappointed. So now my children are 27 and 30 and no longer live at home. But I'm still thrilled that the city is looking to develop something at the end of our block. What I'm asking is that you remember that this city park is in a quiet neighborhood. And for all of us who live here, it has been relatively quiet. Yes, there are lots of bikers and hikers are present, especially on the weekends. However, they move through our space. They don't camp out and stick around. I would love to see the area cleaned up. However, I'm concerned that adding benches and bathrooms would encourage people to hunker down and perhaps spend long periods of time here, encouraging larger gatherings and parties, which would disrupt our quiet little neighborhood. Especially impacted would be the properties adjacent to the park. Those are not my home. I'm in the middle of the block, so I won't be impacted that much if they're all hunkered down there, but those neighbors will. I just want to ask that you remember that your city park is being embedded in a quiet neighborhood, and that you remember that this is our home and our sanctuaries away from the hustle and bustle of life. I ask that you respect the homeowners who live here all the time when making your final decisions, and to allow this space to remain quiet and not draw more attention into this area. I love the city of Belmont. I am a preschool director myself here in the city of Belmont. I love open spaces where children can go and play. My concern is in this, by developing the end of this particular block, especially with bathrooms, outdoor classrooms and whatnot, it's just gonna really disrupt this little area. And maybe I'm being selfish because this is the end of my block, but we're not Twin Pines. We're not out where there's lots of access points. It's at the end of our little block. I've seen lots of emergencies happen, not lots, but several emergencies happen at the end of the block, and you've got fire trucks coming up here, and you've got ambulances and whatnot. A friend of mine was biking up there, had to be taken out by an ambulance. It's very restrictive as well. So I'm just hoping that you guys keep that in mind. I hope you have come here and actually seen this space that you're looking to develop, because it is important that you see what you're looking there. So I thank you for this opportunity for me to share this with you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. And let's see, Barbara, you're going to be next. I might have accidentally muted you and you have to unmute. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I'm Barbara Truppen, and I live at 2609 Carmont. So I'm maybe a third of the way up the street towards the park. This is a beautiful area. I love this neighborhood for many of the same reasons as my neighbors have mentioned. You know, I think one of the things that would be great to have a better understanding is understanding how much it's used already. Because, you know, I stand at a standing desk looking out at the window onto the street, and I see cars go by at 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, up and down the street all day long, and crazy on the weekends. Again, as I mentioned, I live 2/3 of the way down the street from the park, and on the weekends there are cars parked all the way down, you know, out into the apartment area of Lower on Carmont. So it is really quite heavily used, and it's lovely. I understand why people are here using it, but I think just before you add more draw, I would want to know that people have a good understanding that the maintenance of the space, that, you know, that the current cleanliness, that the current, you know, trash pickup, if there are restrictions on any fire use, that all of those things are things that Belmont can comfortably support for the current increased use, certainly before you consider putting anything new there. And that being mindful of the traffic, because you have lots of bikers and lots of walkers and lots of traffic. And I'm surprised that there haven't been more issues or concerns, because people just go straight down the middle of the street. And, you know, I think there could be more safety issues with the bigger draw on people here. So I think it's really, you know, being mindful of who's here. I think we all recognize how beautiful it is and that people are going to want to see and share, but we wouldn't want them to do it in an unsafe way that really has a negative impact on the neighborhood. You know, if all of those assessments of how many people are using it and the amount of traffic, and are people monitoring the speed of traffic or putting speed bumps or some way to sort of control that, if all of those sort of conditions are met, that it can be safely used, then okay, I think some of the nature elements are appealing to me. But if you add that added burden, then the additional maintenance, which we're not sure that they're totally getting now, has to be able to step up to a level where you now have people that can take care of the added, the added amenities, that it's, that has to fall comfortably into somebody's sort of wheelhouse to manage, so that it doesn't then become a burden of more trash, more traffic, more hazards. So thank you for hearing me out.
That's
Thank you,
great.
Martha.
I also want to mention, all of this is really helpful because we will be setting the parameters in our master plan for how this is programmed and developed in the future. So thank you guys. This feedback is wonderful. So please keep it coming. Dana, someone did ask if we could switch back to option A as well. So we can, great, thank you.
And Denise, you are up next. Perfect.
Thank you. So I feel really strongly that I hope the city of Belmont listens to the local neighbors, because they have to live there and that is their home. And as everybody's said so far, I mean, home is a special place that should be comfort, right? It shouldn't be stressful for people. Both of these plans, unfortunately, include things that are going to create conflict for wildlife. And this is a natural area, no matter how it's designated on paper, whether it's a park, but it's always been a natural area. And wildlife uses this little area, and creating bathrooms will make this a destination. It's already a destination, as we're hearing, because of mountain bikers and hikers, but this will attract more people to the area, and also people from outside our area more, because you're going to be offering more amenities. The community garden will probably create conflicts because you'd have to have fencing that, different animals will try to get in to get the food that's being grown there. The idea of a dog park, y'all probably, maybe Gates isn't, but I know Bridget is familiar with the problems of dog parks adjacent to homes and what happens there. And also putting dogs in an open space area off leash also creates new challenges in terms of the atmosphere. And I think that creating this as a more naturalistic area is what I think would be in line with what we've heard so far. And I know we've only heard it from a few, but I think that as naturalistic as possible, maybe some picnic tables, but really trying to keep to the nature of this area that it's always been, and not trying to make it a destination for people from throughout the Bay Area. That would be my suggestion, but thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Denise. Next is going to be Thaddeus.
All right. Hi, everybody. Happy to have a minute to speak with you all. I figured I'd tune into this meeting just to offer a little perspective from the other side of town. I think that it's critical that the city listen to neighbors because this is their home. And it's a beautiful area and we would never want to disrupt that. But I also think the city really needs to listen to the whole city. And I know that as we develop the master plan, that's exactly what's happening here, is thinking about, well, what does the city need? We hear from the neighbors, what do the neighbors want? The neighbors want nothing to change. They basically want people excluded. And I know that one of the goals of the master plan is inclusion. Now, what we don't want to do is create an expressway coming down the street, but I think we want to create something that makes use of this really large city park area. All the homes that were built at the end of Carmont Drive were built under the premise that this park would be dedicated to the city and built for the city, and it's for the people of the city. It's not for the people only on the street. We hear comments of people saying, hey, this should only be for the neighbors. No, it's not only for the neighbors. That's not community building. Our goal, I think, with the master plan is to really focus on the larger community. And I think we can do both. I think they can be achieved to build some form of a beautiful park there that is respectful of the neighbors, and it's respectful of the beauty of that environment, and also serve the whole city. And I think that that really is the goal. So again, just a voice from other side of town, maybe across the tracks. This is for all of us. It's not for the select few. And so we really want that to be taken into account. And I hope more people also can speak up just from diverse perspectives. Because I know that the neighborhood it's a good neighborhood, it's well organized, they're going to speak out on their own behalf. But we need to make sure that there's representation, from across town also. Now, with regards to specific amenities, I like the kind of the a la carte idea. I think that as someone who hikes there regularly, I bike there regularly, there is definitely a culture of people who like to go there for their exercise. And it's such a large space that I think a lot of different features can be incorporated in that space. In fact, it's so long, lots of different things could be built far, far from the homes where there would be no noise issue at all. Even, for example, I know that a pump track was scratched from this particular location, but actually with the community survey, this would probably be the ideal place for a pump track for people to hone their bike skills before they get up on the trails. And we wouldn't want to create something that's like a large bike park that's going to be attracting folks from other side of the bay. But we could certainly put in a small pump track at the far end as it kind of incorporates naturally with the trails anyhow. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities here. It's not binary in the sense that we don't have to choose one thing or the other. We can choose lots of things. But again, I think we need to think about the city and we have to think about the neighborhood at the same time. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Thaddeus. Jesse, you're going to be next.
Hey, this is Jesse, a resident from the Carmont Drive. I just want to probably like a lot of the residents out on the street already make a good comments on our concerns. But in addition of that, I just want to call out two things. One is any changes to the park is non-revertible. Anything we make to the park, we definitely want improvements. We definitely want a beautiful park, but those are not revertible. So if we make all the changes all at the same time, if it draw too much traffic, nothing we can do. Right. So what I think can be more proper is a step-by-step changes. If it draws too much traffic, we still can call stop anytime. But if we add all the facility all at the same time, that's probably going to causing too much traffic, and we can do nothing about it. The second is the park itself is pretty large for sure, but also all the facilities needs to be upgraded. So not just about the park itself. I think what residents more concerned is the road, how to get access to the park. That is basically, I was thinking, is pretty much the bottleneck of the park. Yes, the park can facilitate a lot of people, but the road, it's a dead end road, and it's pretty much a very narrow dead end road. It's a very long, narrow dead end road. And so it needs to serve traffic on both sides. And you, for like a different from the other parks, maybe they have two entrances. If the park is have the say south and north entrance, like drawing 100 people, additional 100 people to the park won't bring that much of traffic, but it's a dead end road. It's basically double the traffic. You need to enter and exit in the same way. So all the facilities, like, and especially the entry, like there's a stop sign, three-way stop sign at the beginning of our entry. And I would say probably if this draws too much traffic, we probably have trouble getting back home, right? So I would probably like everybody loves Great Park, but just making progress slowly. Otherwise, it is probably non-reversible changes to our home and resident. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Janet, you're up next.
Hey folks, this is Janet's husband, Seth Green. We're also homeowners in the Hidden Canyon area. And we're certainly both fans and users of the open space. That's one of the reasons we moved to this community, and I find it very valuable. I really enjoy the natural beauty. And it's really something that I think showcases off the hills of Belmont in a very natural way. And as far as improvements go, generally I'm more in favor of things that are consistent with the open nature of the area and the open space and tend to be more low key. These might include things like the picnic tables or the children's outdoor experience. I'm generally not in favor of amenities that are fenced off or closed, like a dog park. I think that would really change the nature of the space. And one also comment I had just that resonated with me, which is what Jesse mentioned, is that both the options A and B tend to make maximal use of the space. It seems that all of the space is occupied for something. And I was wondering if, an incremental approach might be better, something that could be done in steps, and we could see the relative success of what we're trying to do rather than doing everything all at once. So those are my comments.
All great comments. Thank you so much, Seth. Next is going to be Alan.
Hi, my name's Shirley. I'm Alan's wife. I think I definitely agree that I think like parks are for the entire city and for Belmont. I think, yeah, this is a great space. I just want to make a general kind of like thematic point that it seems like, we hear a lot from the neighbors, and we're kind of obviously speaking mostly from our own experience. So this probably speaks to just kind of like systematically, we feel like there's too much traffic. So I think some, and again, I don't know if you guys have done the actual data collection of just how much traffic, in different areas throughout Belmont, not just this area, but other areas that are being considered, like how much traffic there is on different different days of the week or different times of the day to truly understand sort of the current capacity and, what are, some of the areas that may be overloaded a bit more or not. Because again, I think we want to find a good balance across the different areas of Belmont and find the right option. So again, I think, we are obviously speaking from our own experience, but would love to see studies done so that, we are not just kind of like thinking about the space alone, but also the overall kind of like all the aspects of this project. So hopefully, looking forward to seeing more data and even kind of ideally like projections on the what potentially the added volume of traffic so that we can make a more balanced decision. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your input. Those are all of the hands I see raised. Did anybody else? Oh, I got one more. 1 second. I'm really sorry how I'm going to pronounce this. Kayuri?
Yes. Hi, this is Kiri, and I also live on the Carlmont Drive. I'm actually pretty close to the park and the cul-de-sac, and I totally agree with what Shirley said and what Jesse said, that we need to, first of all, we need to figure out evaluate the existing traffic on different times of the year, right? Over the summer, sometimes in the evening, on the weekends, and then figure out how much the area is being used and how much parking we need. I agree that it's an open area, but I think the existing parking of like 8 cars is definitely not enough, especially when the weather is nice. And I totally get it that we're not saying that the park is only should be available for us. We're already welcoming, hundreds of people who are not even Belmont residents. They come and they use it, and we have no problem with it. But I just want city to be ready. If we include all of these options, then we're gonna invite more people, and I don't think that the small existing parking lot is equipped to handle any additional traffic. Also, someone said that, I would like to keep the nature aspect of it as is, so maybe perhaps include some picnic area and some outdoor experience for children, but I am definitely not very excited about having the fenced dog park. One is I'm not sure if city is equipped to maintain the dog park and also the permanent restroom. We've seen even when we have the porta potty, like a lot of times we had to report the smell to the city. We've made multiple calls in the past. So it's already not being maintained too well. And we've never seen any presence from the city park and rec, any maintenance people over there currently. So I'm not sure how we're going to be enforcing the dog park with, the dogs being on leash, because even at the water dog park, I have, where the, although it's not a dog park near, at the bottom where the water is, I've seen dogs playing without the leash all the time. And obviously there has been no enforcement. So I'm afraid that the same thing's going to happen over here. I think that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pat, you're up next.
Hello, my name is Pat Coviello, Belmont resident. Although our parks are open for anybody in the city and anybody outside the city, it's my understanding from reading the general plan that the parks are specifically to serve neighborhoods, and we have a ratio that there has to be so many parks per thousands of people, and they are specifically to serve the neighborhoods. Although, like I said, they are open to everybody. And that said, I just want to say that I didn't hear any local neighbors state they were for excluding people from Hidden Canyon, as suggested by a previous speaker. And the poll was not limited to Belmont residents. It includes many people from other cities who we're listening to, who are going to impact these neighborhoods, these local neighborhoods, who the parks are specifically supposed to serve. Anyway, I also want to say that the notion that an open space is undeveloped because it contains no human structures is entirely misguided. This is a highly developed area, which is habitat for wildlife, and wildlife, unfortunately, was not represented in the poll. And that's why I'm here. People like me need to speak up for the wildlife. I spent hours at a time in this area, removing French broom, in which I've seen birds and deer foraging in this area. This is a foraging ground for wildlife. The notion that natural areas are undeveloped has unfortunately been historically used to destroy natural areas. And that needs a change, because that's part of our environmental problem we're facing for the present and in the future. And as well, the, what was I gonna say? If you are gonna put something there, the only thing I would agree to would be a picnic tables. But if with that, you're going to have to make sure, because there's going to be trash and there's going to be food trash. You're going to attract wildlife. You're going to have to make sure that you're going to secure that trash. Also, I wouldn't be for paving over any of that area, like the seating and gathering space. Play structures, I'm really not for that there, because it's an open space. It's a wildlife area. Wildlife move through it. It's part of their habitat. Community garden, you're going to attract conflict with wildlife. Wildlife are going to come in to start eating that community garden. Then you're going to have to fence it. What's going to happen there? Outdoor classroom, maybe. Permanent restroom, I don't think we need permanent restrooms in Water Dog. People come in and they come out. I agree with the previous speaker that you put permanent structures like that, you're going to attract people that spend a lot of time there. And for the local neighborhood, which I agree, that should be a major concern. The local neighborhood and the wildlife should be the number one and number two concerns here. And I agree that permanent structures would attract people to camp out there, not camp out overnight, but camp out during the day there, and cause more traffic, of course. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Sonia, you're up next.
Hi, I just wanted to briefly say that I was really inspired by a previous meeting where someone talked about thinking of entire Belmont as a park, not just little individual parks, but the whole thing, because it's such a beautiful natural space all over. And as more of the streets become more bike and pedestrian friendly, I think one way to prevent some of that traffic that would be, and even the traffic that's already going into that amazing space that is Hidden Canyon, can be mitigated by making the rest of the town more bike and pedestrian friendly. So not keeping people out, but keeping more vehicle traffic out, I think can be helped by thinking about how the whole city can be more bike and pedestrian friendly. And so that people are moving around more on their bikes and on foot than in their vehicles will make a big difference in this park, as all of them, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. And next up is Kristen.
Call Kristen. Did you call Kristen? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, it's your turn.
Sec, sorry. I want to echo the sentiments of Pat Cuviello. When this was designated an undeveloped park, it wasn't because it was awaiting development. It was because it was intended to be undeveloped space. It was intended to be natural space compatible with the natural setting that was in. And so I think as humans, we need to resist the urge to build on every inch of what we've got. As I pointed out in comments, dogs are not consistent with open space and wildlife. Trying to grow gardens, I can tell you, I can't grow a garden on the edge of the canyon here because of the squirrels and the raccoons. I also want to comment on the concept of encouraging everybody to come here on bicycle. Well, we have a situation on Hallmark where we have a park with no parking but plenty of bicycle access, very safe streets to bicycle on. Nonetheless, in excess of 2,000 people will drive here for cross-country meets, and they drive and they park in our neighborhood. When you build an amenity that is attractive to people from more than just the immediate neighborhood, they're not going to ride their bike no matter how safe the streets are. They're going to drive. And so I echo earlier sentiments that you should add an amenity one at a time, being very, very careful about capacity, and they must be natural and they must be consistent with the original intended plan when these parks were designated undeveloped, that they would be undeveloped. Not that they were just awaiting development, they were intended to be undeveloped natural space. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Scott, you're up next.
Hi. My understanding of the situation is not what Kristen is saying. It's that when the houses were put in, the deal was that the end was going to be a park and the city could decide what to do with it in due course. And I guess that's kind of what we're doing now. Here's a couple things that I've heard that I really like tonight. Ideas about what to do with that space. It's such a beautiful space. It's in a beautiful valley, but it's flat and it's barren in the summer. It's pretty muddy in the winter. I certainly think it could use a facelift. I like the idea of replacing the porta potty, which is a really big, ugly porta potty, with something more permanent. Seems like a really good idea, so people can wash hands and things like that. The outdoor experience play area for kids, I think, is a really good idea. I envision big rocks to climb on, not a big play structure with plastic and metal, but something a lot more natural. Love to see some more shady oak trees in the area, in the space, and perhaps underneath the shady oak trees, tables for picnicking. My one question is, if some sort of classroom was put in, who would use that? Would that be Parks and Rec classes? Would that be local schools? That would be interesting to know. And I think that's all I've got for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Scott. And Sabina, you're our last hand.
Hi, I'm Sabina. I also live on Carlmont Drive. I'm listening to everyone's comments. It sounds like a lot of people's concerns are more about how the plan, whichever plan we take on, is going to be maintained, and especially since currently we all see that the state of the trails and the signage it is not in really good condition at the moment. So it seems like if there are like city funds allocated to this area, I think, we need to first maybe start off with just bringing the current amenities up to some sort of a standard, like clear maps and signage, and maybe get rid of invasive species or whatnot before we start adding on more things that require even more maintenance. I'm just a bit concerned about like the, state of, current disrepair. Sometimes we go up there to hike and then we get lost because the trail signs are missing. So I think I would start slowly and start from there. That's all.
Thank you, Sabina, so much. That was awesome. Everybody, we so appreciate all of your comments today. And just a reminder, you can go to the Belmont Pros website and provide your feedback there as well. Casey, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, guys. So our next steps Bridget, yes, please.
I just want to step in here real quickly and say thank you very much to all the folks from Carmel Drive and Greater Belmont for your comments. I've taken copious notes here. This is very helpful to hear the questions and see where we need to get some more information and how we want to think about going forward. So again, I just want to thank you very much for your comments here. There was one in the chats. There was a question about barbecues, and I can assure you there will not be any barbecue or fire pit or anything like that anywhere in that area. So rest assured about that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So I also want to reiterate that the feedback you guys give, we hear it and we take it into consideration when we're looking to program everything, and we can make specific guidances when we're putting together the master plan for all the parks that specify that there be more information about traffic and that we're paying attention to access and conflicts with wildlife. So everything is really helpful and informative. We will be doing more focus group meetings. So we will be meeting later this week to discuss another undeveloped park site and some of the opportunities there. If you guys are interested in participating in that as well, we will be going to the Parks and Recreation Commission on November 3rd to talk about some of these recommendations and potential programming suggestions. And then from there, we'll be moving forward with how do we prioritize which things happen first, and then developing that action plan. So when does this happen? What's the budgeting that needs to be provided for it? So this all is intended to create a roadmap so that over the next 15 years, we're building the Belmont Parks, Recreation, and Open Space to be serving all of the community's needs and providing the amenities that they all identified they'd like to see, and then serving those future trends and the growth of the community as well. So we really appreciate you guys participating in this conversation, making sure that the opportunities available in Belmont continue to be serving everyone and getting us outside. And one last time, because I have to say it like 12 times when we're on a call. If for any reason you guys weren't able to figure out the raise hand, or a neighbor wanted to be here but had a conflict, please feel free to visit the website directly, and you can provide comments on any of the park sites we're studying, including this one, or feel free to email us directly with your thoughts and insights at info@belmontprosplan.com. And you can also explore the website to figure out any of the other studies we're looking at, and you can see other comments that people have provided as well, and our summary of our outreach process. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate the insights, and we hope to see you at some of these other future events. Continue to giving your thoughts and opinions and helping making sure we're doing what's best for everyone as we move this forward.
Thank you again so much. And this meeting, once we finish it, we'll be able to load it online if you ever want to come back and revisit. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night, guys. Thanks so much.